Now, a lot of people learn this concept of I feel, but they'll misuse it. They'll say, you know, I really feel you shouldn't do that. Or I feel like a car hit me. I feel that's inappropriate. So what they do is they say, I feel you. Well, you isn't an emotion. I never felt that one. I feel like. You can't feel like. I feel they. No, I can't feel they. See, those are all thoughts. So really what they're saying is, I think you shouldn't do that. I think that's inappropriate. Anger, hurt, fear, joy, pleasure, that's the delivery. Another iMessage that is always used that I like a lot is I want. Now this has got a real bad reputation in this country. When people hear that phrase, I want, they immediately think selfish. Okay, I think we get that because when we first started using that phrase, we were about 1 and 2, 2 or 3. 2 and 3-year-olds love this phrase. They're like walking I want machines. If you ever had little kids, you know. Now what I'm suggesting as an adult is you say what you want, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it. This is not about demand. It's not about being aggressive. That's self-centered. All I'm suggesting is you say what you want in hopes that you'll get it. No guarantee. But one thing I'll guarantee is if you don't say what you want, you're not going to get anything unless you're involved with a psychic person. But what's going to happen if two people say what they want in a relationship? What's that going to create? Something that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with. It's called conflict. People don't like conflict. It scares them. They don't know what to do with it because we weren't trained in that. So what people do is when that conflict potential comes up, oh, they'll go, oh, whatever you want, honey, I don't care. Or whatever makes you happy is fine with me. Or it doesn't matter. They avoid saying what they want to keep the peace, to avoid the conflict. But where's the conflict go? Usually it goes inside the person. To me, it's like you're going to build a lot of resentment out of keeping the peace. Also, it's important to be explicit when you say what you want. Some people say what they want, but they talk in very vague terms, like, I want you to love me, or I want you to respect me, or I want you to be more romantic, or I want you to understand me. See, they'll sound good, but I wouldn't know how to deliver it to the person. You know, you want me to love you? Well, here's some money, go buy yourself some clothes. That's not what I want. See, they argue about what it means. So be real explicit. I want you to be more romantic. Okay, how? Always put it in the how. Well, take me to Carmel for the weekend. You want me to respect you? How? Don't put me down in front of other people. See, those are very clear. So if I want to give the person what they want, I know exactly how to do it. Doesn't mean I'm going to. It's not a demand. But if I want to give it to them, I score with it. And I've heard this where people say, well, if I have to tell you what I want, it's just not worth it. I mean, if you don't know by now who you've been living with. See, that to me is a setup. How can people can't read minds? You know, it's like you got to say what you want so that you can get it. That's being an adult, being responsible. There's one more iMessage in sending that I use, and that's need. I need. And the difference is that needs are not negotiable. Need is something that you have to have. A want, something you can negotiate, you may or may not get it. But a need is like a have to have. Typical needs that are not negotiable, one would be trust. It's very difficult to have an intimate relationship with someone you don't trust. If you don't trust them, it's hard to do anything with them. Respect. How can you be with someone who doesn't respect you? How can you love them, really? Now, there are some needs, I think, that you can get fulfilled outside of a relationship without jeopardizing it, such as I have physical sport needs, to be athletic. Well, I have lots of buddies I can do athletics with. I don't have to do that with my lover. But those core group needs, I don't want to get fulfilled outside because then it's like, what are you doing there? People try that, try to have something on the side, and that usually backfires and doesn't work. And needs, I always say, are never fulfilled. It's not like you do it once and you're done. It's an ongoing maintenance program. So what I've given you here real fast is 3 forms of sending intimate verbal communication. This is also what would be called very assertive communication, as opposed to passive, which is not saying anything, or aggressive, which would be you messages. See, to me, what I'm doing when I say I is that I'm giving the partner, my spouse, a gift. I'm letting them know me in a very precious way. It's not a self-centered thing. It's a gift. And, of course, it goes both ways. Hopefully, it's reciprocal. There's another word that I have a problem with, and that's we. I don't like we. And you might say, wow, that's strange. Why do you say that? Because we doesn't do much. It's like I always see, I have a couple and they say, we should get a babysitter, or we should spend more time together, or we should talk more. You know, it's always about the we. But we doesn't do anything. We doesn't make reservations. We doesn't get a babysitter. So it's like, who's going to do it? You or you, but we won't do it. So that's sending intimate communication. Now, the flip of this, the more important side, is listening. Because you can use the best iMessages in the world, but if the other person isn't listening, then you might as well be talking to a wall. See, we don't really pay attention to how we listen. One of the most classic forms of listening that's ineffective is what I would call silence with eye contact. That's how most people listen. Maybe because we got taught that, you know. Shut up, don't talk to me, and look at me when I'm talking to you. Pay attention here. So we think to listen to somebody is you stare at them and you don't say anything. It's not up to the person who does the listening to decide whether they listen or not. It's the speaker that makes that call. Now, when I teach my classes at school, they look like they're listening, but I really don't know. I really don't know. The only way you can tell is give them a test. How do you listen to someone who's emotional, someone who's angry, someone who's upset, someone's excited, someone's having a great day? That's where listening becomes really critical. Some people listen, another style is with questions. A lot of people ask questions as a way of listening. They'll go, well, how did you do that? Or how come you did that? Or how'd you feel when you did that? And you want to say, will you shut up and let me finish? A good listener in this context follows the speaker up and down and around wherever you go. You don't lead them and direct them like you're in some deposition or a witness on the stand. So that's how most people listen, either through silence and eye contact, or questions, or sounds and gestures and phrases that they're listening. None of those work in terms of getting that speaker to feel understood. What works is another kind of rather simple concept, but hard for people to do. And what you try to do is you try to verbally acknowledge the speaker's emotions. Actually state what that speaker is feeling. Even if you're guessing, that's okay. Sounds like you're really angry with me, or you're worried about what's happening with your friends. You don't have to agree. This is not about agreement. This is about understanding. There's a big difference. I can listen to someone and I can give them the feeling that I understand them, but I may not agree with what they're saying except for one thing, how they feel. Remember, emotions are not debatable. So verbally acknowledging emotion is a very powerful thing. It is one of the best sexual aphrodisiacs I know because it creates emotional intimacy very quickly. Because when you have someone acknowledge your feelings, you just start opening up to them and you start to feel very close very fast. Okay, usually what you have when someone's talking, you have the sender. And when somebody talks, they always talk on two levels. Okay, one is the content of what they're saying. And the content is, I went to the store, I ran into this person, they said this, or content could be, I talked to my mother and she made me really mad, or you never help out around the house, you expect me to do everything. Sometimes it could be inflammatory, but it's basically what the person thinks, what their story is, what their perception is. And then on another level, when the person's talking, is what's more important to me is how they feel about what they're saying, the emotions. So you have two levels when people communicate. Now sometimes there's a lot of content and very little emotion. As a receiver or a listener, what I'm doing is trying to figure out from what they're saying, how do they feel? And the second I pick up on an emotion, I try to feed it back to them in a you message. It's the opposite of sending. So you feel hurt by what I just said. Some kind of an emotion goes in here. And then what I feed back, they'll either correct it and say, no, I'm not angry with you, I'm more disappointed. Or they'll say, yeah, I am angry because where have you been, Dan? And what I want you to see is this circuit. You see this loop, because that's what usually doesn't happen in couple communication, because typically what happens is the listener comes back with this pronoun, I. The second the listener says I don't care what comes after it, that spotlight I talked about that's on the speaker now is off the speaker. And so this circuit gets cut and is broken. And that's where the communication breaks down. So when you're listening, one of the hard things to do, but the most critical really one, is to keep your mouth shut about what you think, what you feel, everything about you until it's your turn to talk. So what we've covered in the behavioral part is how to send intimate verbal communication and how to listen. And if we were to continue, one other area that's important is resolving conflicts. How to resolve conflicts requires the same kind of skills and knowledge. But first you have to be able to talk right and listen before you can sit down and negotiate conflicts.